Hey everybody. So it's Obi-Wan. I'm here at our new place in the UK. Rainy out. So I thought I'd give maybe a tour and then figure out some other stuff, either play games. So I've got the Switch hooked up, so I can at least do that. Or do some math if I can find my tripod wherever it went. But for now, this is our living room area. So we have a whole bunch of temporary furniture that we are using. Ended up that the guy who was here last time gave us like this island thing. So it's pretty nice. Been testing out a bunch of the local coffee shops. So we got a Americano this morning, which just is espresso and water. So it works out pretty nice. Howdy-yolo! Fair enough, but I mean, I do have a cupboard that has the teas. So, and look, it's even opened. So, yeah, I did end up getting Yorkshire Gold and a Earl Grey from like Earl Grey from like the local local, meaning like, all of Yorkshire. No, yep. Been reading Chalky by John Wyndham. One of his previous books was The Chrysalids, which I really liked, and that is in a shipment somewhere. But Chalky's really good. Packaging is free in Australia. Okay. Yeah, this was also done in our rental that we had, but the 240s having light switches for literally everything here really threw me off, and especially since these are on. For all of our American friends, that would be on, but no, that is on. Yeah, settling in pretty well. Our other guy left this AI Cook tea kettle, so it like insta boils pretty much everything. Now we've got like the nice little toaster here that he also left he left behind a lot of stuff because he was just like us saying, I don't want this. I don't want to bring it back. That's crazy. And just kind of like said, if you want whatever, then you can have it for X amount of dollars. And we're like, sure. So we're doing the same thing on our end. Yep, they give us some Transformers just in case we more than meets the eye. Oh, I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't even know exactly. I mean, it's not literally insta-boil, but do not immerse in water. Good advice. 1850 to 2200 watt. So 2200 watts for roughly 30 seconds. Yeah, got us blackout curtains and everything. Oh yeah, these are fun. So the water radiators. use a boiler system, which then like this system will boil your water, and then if you look outside, there's usually like a massive amount of steam pouring out the back of the house. So that's fun. Gooseneck pour over, yep. Oh, in here we got our currently empty garage, but once I figure out where the remote is, we might actually be able to put the car in here. You can see he used to have a car in here. And funnily enough, it is the same car. So I'm like, well, I think that he should have his, like, all of his stuff. He should have the remote control still in here. And like I can't find it anywhere. So got nice closet space and everything for our entryway. Works very nicely. Except I can't apparently close the door. Beautiful type bathroom here. Little shelf. Not on the ground floor. Oh yeah, and that's another thing that gets me. The isolator fans will stay on for a few minutes after you turn the lights off. Nice little utility closet in here. Yeah, so we've got this gigantic bathtub with a nice little window, frosted. And then we've also got a shower in here. I mean, basically, yes. And a gigantic sink. I mean, this is ridiculous. That is my forearm. And then we get our hot water heater back here, which is giant. So I don't think we're going to run out of hot water. This is the future office and future home of the Simplex. So currently it is drying clothing. Well, since we don't have any of our stuff that's actually going to be hanging up drying clothes, have Kiddo One's room over here, which used to be the previous guy's bedroom. I don't remember. Kiddo number 2, bit smaller, but he's also got a bay window that goes out to next door. We get to see all that. We get these crazy light fixtures that are all broken. And then we get the third floor. Which is also gigantic. Which also has a shower. Although this one is slightly small. I will actually hit my head on this if I'm not careful. But the previous guy was a bit taller, so like he couldn't actually cut my finger earlier. He couldn't actually stand in the shower without bonking his head on the actual ceiling. So he was like, I never use this, it's a guest room. We got these Velux windows. It's very confusing. And like, this thing up here is really worrisome because that is peeling away from the wall. And I'm like, is that just gonna fall on us? It's like, good news, it probably won't fall on us. it's just going to fall in the corner of the room. But I was like, do you want me to just go out to the hardware store, grab a couple of screws, and like get it into the wall? And I haven't heard back yet. So, oh yeah, and a walk-in closet, which is like literally walk-in. It's actually a bit like our old place. So yeah, things are working out all right. We also got this random hatchway that apparently goes to the ceiling, or goes to the roof, but like, yeah, we're not messing with that. It's also a great workout to go up and down stairs all day. Because in our last place, it was pretty much a ranch. So we were mostly spending our time on one floor and one floor only. And like, if you had to go into the basement, it was such a to-do. And now I'm trying to remember where I left. It's really frustrating because I wanted to look earlier, or I did look earlier before I started streaming, to try to figure out where exactly this thing was. See if I could get my tripod at least connected to the phone so that I wouldn't have to do whatever. But it's fine. So, more or less, I get to do the stay-at-home dad thing. Gotta get our food stuffs in order and whatnot. Black pudding. So, I think I ate it last time we were here. And, like, yeah, it's okay. I think I like haggis more. We're not that close to Scotland, but close enough that I will certainly have it a few more times while we're here. And I think my parents are coming to visit sometime in the summer, so we'll be able to run out. And I know my dad is going to want haggis, like proper Scottish haggis. So I'll have to go to a restaurant somewhere. Man. All right, let's check up in with the office one more time. For like the third time. Yeah, previous guy also gave us a large amount of cords that went with all the electronics we're going to get, because, again, we're working off of a 240 system, or 230 system. Well, I mean, he doesn't want them, right? So, expander. This is a little overkill, and I'm worried that it might actually overload. Yeah, that's probably fine. Max output 3,000 watts. Okay, 13 amps. Jesus. Frequency 50 or 60 hertz. That's also something that's interesting. My dad said, like, you absolutely do not want to plug in most of your electronics because the 50 watt system, even if you're on transformer or whatever else, the 50 watt system is going to really mess with your 60 watt electronics. I was like, I don't know. And he was like, well, it happened to us when we were in the British Virgin Islands. And I was like, yeah, but there we go. Found it. No offense to you and your British Virgin Island friends, but like, it's not the most built up infrastructure. Yeah, don't plug in 8 kettles. Good choice. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Yeah, it would cost a lot of money to get those all individually. And desk lamp. So having somebody come over and be like, hey, you should take all my stuff, was pretty good. There was a sci-fi convention, or there is going to be a sci-fi convention in Edinburgh in June, or like end of May into June. And Adrian Tchaikovsky is a famed Yorkshire-born author. This book right here, Alien Clay, is absolutely wonderful, and everybody should buy it. Hashtag not sponsored. It is not coming to the United States, and I don't have to worry because none of my U.S. friends are up yet. Why would you be up right now? It's only 5:30 in the morning. Go back to bed. But if anybody watches it later, Alien Clay is coming out in the U.S. in September. And yes, like I said, absolutely worth it. Real light, basic premise. There's a guy who is a scientist. He's he's into biology. I forget exactly what thing he's in, but basically xenobiology, and Earth has now spread out into multiple solar systems, but a particular group has taken authoritarian stranglehold on everything. They are called the Mandate, and they are really into making sure that everything follows their religious orthodoxy. Oh, we're turning sideways. Can we, no? Okay. So at any rate, yep, diagonal. I'm gonna get there. So the Mandate has thrown this guy into, there we go. It's almost like they invented this little hole here so that you could actually do this. Yeah, that's true. So our, I'm way far afield at this point. Yeah, all of our stuff is, all of my computers anyway, are rated for 230 or 110 systems, so they should be fine. The power board, or the power supply itself says that that's what it's got going. I'm not 100% sure about the frequency, but like if it's a modern system and it runs 230, I imagine that it's probably going to be fine for 50 hertz. Yeah, right. That's what I told my dad. I was like, look, this thing has been shipped all over the world, so I don't think that they would want to make multiple different power what's the word I'm looking for? Standards, I guess, you know. They wouldn't want to play with multiple power standards. Yeah. So I just need to look at it. I know that my Winbox has a PSU that has a switch on it, so I need to make sure that I throw that switch before I plug it in. Or leave it on the 110 and then find our American plug. Does all the or just grab one of those transformers over there. That'll do all the step down and transforming that, then I won't have to worry about it. Yeah. So yeah, alien clay. So this guy gets to this random-ish planet that's like super far away, and basically the entire planet is trying to kill them. No surprise. But it's also a prison planet, so like the people who run it really don't care as long as what do they call it? Acceptable wastage. And it's really, weirdly reminiscent of both, which some people would be like, no, weirdly reminiscent of like communist Russia, and also reflective of like where many people in the United States really want us to go. Where it's like, no, we don't want an authoritarian state. We just want to be in charge 100% and throw people in jail that disagree with us. It's like, do you not hear yourselves? So overall, we've had, how long has it been? 2 weeks? Yeah, basically 2 weeks here. We're living in temporary housing a couple of streets away from here, and our friends live like right across the street. So it's really helpful and really nice for, having support, I suppose. Being in a very strange new place. We came over a year ago during our spring break to kind of check things out. And we got home and I sat the kids down and we're like, so what'd you think? And they were like, it's nice. Like, would you want to live there? And they're like, yes. Not the reaction I was expecting. I was expecting them to be like, oh, well, maybe, I don't know. But no, just absolute, yes, 100%, let's go. And I was like, oh, all right. So it took until about a month before we left that they were like, oh, wait, this means that we're going to be gone permanently from the one place that we've ever lived in our entire lives. There we go. I needed to make it a little more stable. Yeah, and that's the other thing is that, like, we can grab a train and just go to a different country for, like, a day. And then wake up on the train the next day and we're in another different country. They speak a different language. They have a different culture. And it is wildly, vastly different than anything we've ever experienced. Yeah, so we're definitely going to multiple locations. They get the way that their breaks work here is also very different. As opposed to the States, we get like 3 weeks off. So we're just gonna F off for 3 weeks. And like, you want a long weekend in France? All right, let's go. We can do that. It doesn't matter. It's not like, we have to plan a trip and it's going to be, it's going to be a week before we can really get everything settled and do all this other stuff. The only like minor issue we might have is the EU arguments that are going on with Great Britain, but like, okay. Need a 33-year-old third kid? No. Yeah. So we were definitely like, okay, so when we come back, it's going to line up where they're going to be moving into new schools anyway. Whether we stay or we go, in 3 years, they're going to be trading schools. Both of them. And so we're just like, all right, that's perfect. If we stay an extra 3 years after that, then like they're going to be kind of in the middle of stuff. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you could extend, and we're like, no. It doesn't matter if we love it that much. We're not going to, because it's just going to mess everything up. Yeah, so like anywhere we go, we just pull out our tourist visas and be like, we can go anywhere. Oh, we've come a long way. No, not really. Oh, yeah, yeah, passport. Which, I mean, sort of. So yeah, I'm just kind of like chilling out and figuring out what to do with my life. 3 months, yeah, yeah. So as long as we're not parking somewhere, then we're fine. Yeah. Meal plan, yeah, yeah. We've got like all of the Yorkshire slash, English UK staples nearby. I've got a Waitrose, we've got a Asda, we've got Sainsbury's. So there's pretty much anything we want fairly close by, within driving distance, surely, and within much closer driving distance than what we had back in the States. And like basically everything is walkable. So unless I'm carrying home 100 pounds of groceries, like, which I did the other day, that was a little less fun. But it was, we have a cart. So our friend has referred to them as granny or nana carts, I believe, because there's all the English nanas who carry out their carts and then go to wherever they need to go for the day. Yeah, so London is very walkable, but like so is New York City. I was talking with one of my friends who was like, I'm so jealous of you. I wish we could go again because I lived in Yorkshire for 4 years as part of the military. And he just went on this huge thing about how he wished he could go back. And he said the entire like year and a half before he was going, he was kicking and screaming, being like, I don't want to go. You can't make me. And they're like, think we can. He was trying to write to congressmen and get like, no, don't make me go to Yorkshire. Make me go to like, I don't even know what time this was for him. So, I don't think Afghanistan was a thing yet. I think he's a couple years older than me. So, but yeah, he was just like, I don't want to go. Yeah, send me to Germany. Go do this, go do that, anywhere else, like not English, not in the north, not in the north country of England. It's all going to be miserable and rainy and the food's awful and everything else. And he gets here and he's like, huh, it's not too bad. And then like a year in, he's like, oh my God, this is possibly the most beautiful, awesome, wonderful place I've ever been in my entire life. Oh, definitely, yeah. I think we're probably going to go to Oktoberfest at some point in Germany. But, like, just for the novelty of it. Like, I don't drink that much. One of our friends is much more of a, like, here, let's go grab a beer at lunchtime. Let's have another one at 3 o'clock and another one with dinner, maybe 2. Hey, you want to drink when we pop back home? I'm like, oh, man. Yeah, no, our kids are like they had a joke that they were going to get their picture taken in front of a local 7-Eleven because that was their ages at the time. So they're pretty close to that. So they got put into their forms. We spent, what was it? We had 1 week while we were here where everybody was on school vacation except the school that's like next door to our house, basically. A little bit up the street. They were like, you could just hear children screaming in the middle of the day, and it was kind of like, I think that's okay. So, just turned out that they were at recess, or that particular group was at recess, and they were being a little rowdy that day because, of course, right? They're just seeing their friends after a 3-week break. So, yeah, wasn't very child friendly. All right, good to know. Public urination, public vomiting. Yeah. But maybe also like just some quiet town for finding Oktoberfest, or like find the guys who do their local drinking or their local brewing and stuff like that, and bring that stuff in. It might be a little too high nose, but people are like, ugh, boorish. All those people throwing up everywhere. Ugh. Ah. Yeah, not that one. But if I find one of those hoity-toity places, maybe that'll work a little bit better. Of course, they would probably also be like, ugh, bringing children to this place. 26, yeah. Oh. Well, that's pretty good. Interesting that was even too much for you. Oh, man. Good times. Yeah, so we never did that. Like, my brother and his fiance went out and did a European tour, but she was doing it for a book that she was writing. And, like, she's kind of more into wine. And my brother's, like, not really a drinker at all. And then he came back and he was like, oh, yeah, we had, like, all these things. We did beer. We did all this other. I'm like, now, hang on a second. You, sir, you told me you don't drink. And he was like, yeah, well, I got used to it. When we were in Europe, I was like, okay, yeah, that checks. 8 beers. Oh. I mean, those are like those or bigger, right? Like 32 plus full on liter. Oh. Jeez. Yeah, no, it was whatever measurement system you want to do, I'm very flexible. But yeah, okay, that makes sense. Half-liter steins. I guess that's pretty close to a pint. Anyway. But yeah, coming to Heathrow was fun. I keep forgetting that Heathrow is like so incredibly large because the international terminal where we came in, we like, oh, geez. Well, good on you. Jesus. Woo. The international terminal where we came in looks like a rinky-dink airport. And like you walk in, you get your bags, you go like straight out the thing, and there's maybe 5 baggage claim, like like 3 or 4 baggage claim areas that are separate from each other. And then like I'm just looking around and I'm like, there's not a lot here. Like it doesn't look that big. Like why doesn't it look that big? And it's because they've like isolated this terminal so that you could just do your thing over here. And then like all the domestic, or well, there aren't that many domestic flights because, you know, the country's only 500 miles long. But you know, all the flights that are coming in from all the rest of Europe and things like that. I mean, I guess that's international too, but I think they're shunted a different way. So like there's a huge amount of people who are doing visas and like checking your passports and things like that. And then there's like a tiny baggage claim area, and then you go outside and it's like there's a giant parking garage, but I only saw about this much of it. Right? Like we had our driver, and like the area that we came out in was probably 30-40 feet wide, and you know there's all sorts of people everywhere, and it's just like, yes, I would say it is very well organized, not to say slightly tight, but I mean, if you're used to a house like this that's, you know, 3 stories tall and very thin. And ours actually is not that bad because we have the garage. It expands our floor plan by at least 50%. And like we went over to our friend's house last year, and I'm like, I don't know how we can live in a space like this, because it was, you know, the stairwell is probably about the same as ours, but there's like the carpet I think is a lot older, probably slicker, and the stairs underneath are glossy. I mean, they are painted high gloss white, and it's oh, their stairs are a lot steeper than ours too. Now that I'm like thinking about it, ours make a turn where theirs do not. Theirs just go straight to the wall, essentially. And like they have one bathroom which is dedicated to a bath and a shower. There is a bath, a shower, and a sink. That is it. The other bathroom, which is like a quarter bath, I think, in the US, is a toilet and a sink that is, no joke, yay big. Like, I'm washing my hands over this thing, trying not to get the wall. I can't do it. That's crazy. So our rental also had one of those in the water closet, right? So our rental also had one of those. Only it was like the room itself was actually pretty big. You had room to like sit down on the toilet, and then you had space in front of you where, in theory, not that you'd want to, but in theory, somebody else could wash their hands there at the same time. Or, in other words, when you get off of the toilet and go to wash your hands, you're not in literally the same space. But theirs is absolutely, you stand up and you are at the sink. I was like, I'm not liking this so much. And the fact that we have, 3 essentially three bedrooms on the first floor, is really helpful because that's going to give me office space to be able to do stuff. Our neighbors across the street they only have one kid, so they do have like a bedroom and an office. So it works for them. But then at the same time, like, yeah, you can wash your hands while you're on the toilet. That's efficiency for you, right? In case you need a pregame. Oh yeah, and then the other thing that got me a whole bunch was the appliances that are, built in. So, they look like they're just part of the cabinetry. So it gets to be sometimes a little weird because, like, I don't know where things are, but we figured it out pretty quick. It was just like there's a few things that it's like, well, I don't know exactly. Oops, should have left that out. Yeah, and we'll figure things out. It's not like it's an issue. Oh, the curved boundary tile, yeah. And I think somebody dropped a couch on the corner of it, because there's like this little nick that got taken out of one part of it. When the landlord came through and did inspection to get the other guy out, we also know the other guy because he was going back to the States. He's from like a couple of divisions over or something like that from all the other people around here. Everybody's from the same place. Not really. But yeah, he was in here and he was like, so hey, the landlord is probably going to be like, there's this thing over here that like wasn't on the inventory, and I was like, oh fuck that. We're gonna have some fun. So they gave me a like 12-page inventory with like notes on literally everything in the house. And I guess this is pretty standard for like just rentals in general. But I was like, all right, we're going through this whole place and we are going to like absolutely write down notes on literally everything. So like most rooms, the rental agency writes in, there's scuffs on the wall, there's like dents and things like that from the movers, from, previous tenants or whatever. And it's like, of course, they're always going to have those. And like, the landlord tried to get the guy to pay for, what was it? I think it was upstairs, but it was like, oh, he tried to get him to pay for somebody to mow the grass, and the rental agency went, no. It says right here that the grass was long in the inventory, so he didn't do anything any different from what you did. If you want to mow the lawn or if you want to hire somebody, that's on you. So I was like, I like these rental agency people. It's like they kind of advocate for you. And he was like, well, this one certainly was all for it because, yeah, she went through the inventory, she went through the house, and she was just like, all right, here are the things that maybe you could get dinged on, but So he was trying to eat up his security deposit and just be like, you need to pay for, yeah. So I went through and I was like, nah, screw this. And I like went through every single room, and I was like, you know what? There's cracks around that, like the wall plate here. This wall plate that's over here. I can't zoom in. All right. There's cracks around that wall plate where the painting wasn't done properly. And there's dust left on like every surface in the house. I mean, I went through and like really hammered it. And I went to the rental agency. I'm like, yeah, this is probably ridiculous, and I'm sorry, but at the same time, I have no job. So if I can save $1,800, I'm gonna do it, or whatever it ends up being. And I want this guy to know that I'm not playing around. So like, if my kid throws something at the wall, I will definitely attempt to repair it myself and or pay for it at the end. That's fine. If it ends up that like, you know, the movers bash the wall and a section of drywall needs to be replaced, sure, I will pay for that. That's fine. But if you're going to tell me that, oh, the stove's not working, why isn't the stove working? And I'll be like, it was working just fine the other day. Yep. There's a bunch of stuff that was in there. There are like so many abbreviations that the rental agency uses, but CWA was a big one. I'm going to use that one a lot, consistent with age. Sorry, this is like a 12-year-old thing. It's only supposed to last 10, so guess what? You're probably just going to have to replace it. What's that? You want a new dishwasher? I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to help you with that. Our temporary property also had, we basically did I think it was literally Airbnb, had what our neighbors also have, which is a combined washer dryer. And let me tell you, that doesn't work very well. It washes things, sort of dries them. But yeah, I was like grabbing stuff out of the dryer. I'm like, yeah, maybe not. So that's one of the reasons why the upstairs has been converted into a laundry surface rather than using it as an office at the moment. Just because, I mean, well, also none of our stuff is here. So like, everything that is in this house we have either bought here, been given here, which thank you very much to all of our friends, or we brought ourselves on the plane. So we've got, I think later this week is when the group's due in to bring over the computers. So I'll finally get the Simplex up and running. That being said, I don't have a desk, so fun. We'll maybe do like a lay down stream, or we'll continue to do stuff on tripod here. But yeah, it's fun times. That's another good thing is that like this the rental agency is kind of a big rental agency, or at least I've seen them. Like, I've seen signs for their stuff up to 30 miles away from where we are. So, like, you know, they're big. They're not going to fear losing a client if, like, they kind of piss off the guy who owns this place. I know a few other rental agencies, like, especially small ones, are kind of fearful of, oh no, if we lose a client, we might go under, or, you know, we're only like 6 months away from being insolvent. Like, around here, they're just like, we'll find like 10 more. It's fine. Or do you want to just sell it to us? Because we'll do it. So our there's two shipments. Well, okay. So there's basically four stages. Let's go with four stages. Stage one was everything you bring on the plane. Stage two is everything that you shipped from home via USPS. So like that came, I think it was basically, some of it was waiting for us and some of it showed up within like 2 days of us arriving. And then we were like, I don't really want to bring it to our rental or our B&B house, because if we bring it to the B&B, then we're going to have to bring it again over to the other place. And also, we don't really have, well, at that point we didn't have a car. So like we were borrowing car space from our sponsor, who's a guy who's going back next year, I think. And I think he's been here like 8-10 years, maybe 15. I can't remember. It's been a long time. But he was just like, yeah, going back? No, that's all right. Pass. But yeah, it showed up pretty much almost at the same time we did. And then we're like, I don't really want to get it just yet. And so we were like, can you just hang on to it for like a little bit? We're moving into our new place next week. We get our car on, Thursday of our first week, which means that we can maybe pick it up Thursday, Friday, or we then get the weekend and then we'll pick it up like Monday, Tuesday. And the lady is, bless her, she's British. She's like full blown, I'm pretty sure Yorkshire. She's just like, I think we can do that, yeah. Like, and she's operating out of a space that's basically this big. And we had 5 boxes, 3 of which you saw what they were in the garage there. They were basically like 2 by 2 by 2 cubes, like slightly smaller on 2 of the dimensions, but yeah, I think they were like inches wise, 20 by 21 by 24. So basically a 2-foot cube, 3 of them. And then 2 smaller ones that were like, arm size. So whatever, that's fine. She was just like, all right. So I show up on Tuesday of the next week, which was this last Tuesday, and she's like, oh yeah, coming to get those, are you? I'm like, sorry. We got really busy doing this other stuff. She's like, mm-hmm. And then I got taken into orientation for my spouse's job, because we also do orientation for this, and I was like, oh man. And there were 3 people total in the audience. It was her, and it was me, and it was some other guy. And I'm just like, and this is gonna be an all day thing? And they're like, yeah. It went from like 9 o'clock in the morning, where approximately, yes, it was very personalized, which is to say that it wasn't personalized at all, except we could just like maybe dick around and make a few jokes. But so we go there, we show up at basically 9 o'clock, and they're like about ready to start, and we're like, yeah, sorry, we're a couple minutes late, had to drop the kids off at school. They're like, I mean, you see the size of the audience. It's fine. And then it was this one lady who was doing like introductions of who should be, who's coming up next and things like that. And so there's like all this procession of people, you know, we're talking like executive level most of the time. They work their way through a few like different offices that really needed to be there and show up and be like, hey, here's some things you need to know about this area, our services, like, you know, what you're entitled to, what the laws are that are different than the United States. And you'd better believe that you better be following them, because goodness, if you don't, you are screwed. This one person was like, yeah, just as a reminder, the police here, if you're taken in for like questioning for literally anything, they're not there to have a nice chat. They're looking to prosecute you. Like, I'm like, oh, all right, cool. So sort of like the States, but yes, and it's also the Crown, because, you know, it's like they've got a slightly different way of doing things. Like it's kind of interesting. So yeah, we show up for orientation. That lasted until, so that was the interesting part. Like, we got out from the first bit. The lady who was doing the introductions had to do several of the presentations because those people were out doing their jobs. Okay, cool. You can't help that, right? And like, you know, oh, this person had a project today, sorry. Like, this person had a very important meeting that they could not cancel today. Okay. So she's like, well, I'm going to go through this and we'll see if we can understand the PowerPoint as it is. If anybody has any questions, please let me know / call the other people. All right. So we get done with the mornings session. We had like one quick, toilet break, and it was supposed to go up until 12, and then like everything would restart again at 1, I think, like lunch hour. So the two of us looked at each other and were like, screw it, let's go down to like, this little pub down the street. And so I had like, we get there, and I think it's 2. I couldn't actually tell what their accent was, and forgive me, it's awful, I should know better. But also because it's been like blended with Yorkshire, it's so hard for me to figure it out now. Like, I used to be good with this. I couldn't tell if it was Spanish or Italian. I would probably lean toward Italian, just the way that some of the vowels came out and stuff like that. But like I said, it's mixed with Yorkshire. I don't friggin' know. So we went down to this pub, and we sit there, and they come over and they ask, what do you want? And we were like, so are you like open for lunch? And they're like, well, not until 12, and it's like 11 something. Hey, Cold Gold. Oh, hi. It's like 11:10, right? We get out at 11 o'clock, and we're like, let's do lunch. So we go over to the next town, and they're like, yeah, we're not open for lunch, but you can have breakfast. And we're like, all right, cool. So end up getting what did I do that day? I went somewhere else, and I had I had a small Irish breakfast, which is very similar but legally distinct from, and if you confuse it, they probably will punch you, English breakfast. And here, what did I get? Oh, she was like, oh, we're only really open for breakfast, but I could probably get you like these 3-4 things that they'd already made. And so I was like, yeah, meat pie sounds great. We've got like, there are sheep literally everywhere. So sheep and beef pie, sure, why not? Let's do it. It's 11 o'clock. It feels like lunch to me. I've been up since 7 o'clock or whatever. Beef, yeah. So I'm actually kind of partial to mutton, and so this is great. Like I try to eat as little lamb as possible, just because that you know. So here it was just like a piece, like I mean, but it was a significant wedge. I'd say probably about yeah, about like that big. Something you could grab with your hand if you really wanted to get messy. Yeah, and I mean it's also different in Australia, probably slightly, for what it's worth. I know that sheep had such a problem in the United States, or were such a problem in the United States, because the grass couldn't handle being eaten by sheep. They would tear it up by the roots everywhere they went. There was a Looney Tunes cartoon all about it. They had the sheep and cattle farmers, and they would like charge at each other, and then the sheep went past the cattle, and you hear, and then they all went out, and the cows had all of their fur eaten to like the level of the sheep. I found it hilarious. But yeah, the cattle and sheep farmers had like such a big like contretemps with each other in the American West because of that. Because the sheep would tear up the grass, and then there'd be no grass left, whereas the cattle would at least break the grass or be able to tear it out just by leaves, and it would grow back. It's a weird dynamic. But yeah, the grasses in wherever they have sheep in America, the grasses have co-evolved with them over the last couple hundred years to survive better. So usually if you see sheep somewhere, it's like relegated. They are relegated to that farmland because that has co-evolved to work. And grasses get a bit tougher and all that. Heaps of sheeps don't love the taste. Yeah. Oh, I just mean like even the taste might be slightly different in all different parts of the world. I mean, they eat different kinds of grass. They eat different kinds of grass. Yeah, or feed if they just get feed. That's another thing in and around here. Oh, Phobos. Good afternoon. Still morning here, if only slightly. 11:15 looks like. Yep. So we are working off of British summertime here. GMT +1. Or should I say UTC +1? I much prefer saying UTC. So, anyway, there are so many sheep around here. It's just really fascinating because, like, anywhere I've lived, it's always been cows. There have almost never been sheep. Or, like, you see some, but it's kind of rare. They'll be on farms, but they won't be, like, just roaming in a field somewhere. I think mostly, again, because they tear up all the grass. If they're not bred for it. But yeah, we anyway, I got meat pie. Good times. And then my spouse had something else that was like prepared and ready to go for the day. And then like we sat there, and there's just even just around us, right? There is wood and stone and plaster that has been there since probably my great-great-great-grandparents came to America. or at least that one side of the family. Yeah, and like there was a beam, wooden beam that was running like the length of our little alcove that we were sitting in, and I look up and there's like a wrought iron hanger for like your coat or maybe garland to be decorative. And I'm like, okay, so that hook is probably 200 plus years old. So that's pretty cool. Then at some point I look over and the lady's like starting a fire in their stone fireplace that's like basically the size of our kitchen. Like you have to step into it to start the fire. And I mean they've got a grill that's probably about the size of a notebook, but she's building the fire on that and get it going. Although I was slightly less impressed with the method by which she was lighting it, which was taking commercial fire starters and like she put another one there and another one there. I'm like, you don't even need one. Like, one's probably sufficient if you build your fire right. And by the time we paid our check and left, the fire was going, but then like one of the logs had collapsed and it was starting to like, it had restricted airflow. I'm like, I want to fix it, but it's not my place. Cold Gold, I am in the UK for the next 3 years. So my spouse took an opportunity that was presented. Roughly speaking, every year or so, at least one job billet comes up that's like, do you want to work at this particular location? And a number of them are just all over the world. So, I mean, it's United States, right? Like our companies and whoever else are like, they have their feet in practically every country in the world. The ones that are the most popular for this particular posting are UK, Hawaii, no surprise, South Korea, Australia, and I want to say there's a couple more, but we definitely have one in Poland, because another one of our friends took an opportunity there. And oftentimes what happens is like if there are two people in the household and they both work for that company, then if one person gets the job billet, they'll find another one for that person, like somewhere. We'll have a job. It'll be fine. You'll do whatever you think you're comfortable with. In Poland it was like, yeah, we're out. Like, we don't have any. We have the one for you, but your spouse does not have one. This was also a couple that said like, oh, we're not going to get married. That's ridiculous. And then they're like, yeah, she can't come unless you're married. And they're like, righto. Guess we're getting married. It makes their tax filing a bit easier, but like, yeah, my spouse and my son, who was, I believe, like 3 months old at the time, showed up to a very nice wedding, small little reception at the courthouse. He was wearing his Sunday best, which was a onesie. That was just the plain white onesie, but it had been decorated with a nope. Oh no, it was decorated with a button-down shirt. And he had suspenders and a bow tie that they put on him. So he was adorable. I was unable to go because I had to actually teach classes. Yeah. So my spouse found a job billet that was here, and our friends came over a year ago, give or take, and we visited them last year to just see like how things were because this billet was going to come available, and so we were like, "Do we want to do this?" She looked at the financials and we're like, "Well, it'd kind of be stupid not to do this. We're going to make money on just living here." And any money that I make is going to go basically directly to the bank. So I was like, what do I want to do? I want to try to stick around a little bit, try to improve my I got to update my address in Twitch. If they still think I'm in Maryland, that might be a problem. I have to show them my British residency permit and be like, yeah, I really belong here and I can work here. So this might be an illegal stream. Oh no, I just entered into evidence. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to try to figure out what I can do. I'm going to improve my Twitch presence. I'm going to work with the rest of... Thanks, Hanyolo. See you later. I'm going to see if I can work with the rest of the Chads who... Yep, hang on. We gotta give them their thing. Chat. That one. Okay. So we're gonna see if we can improve our work with the Chads. It's going to be kind of hard because I'm 5 hours off from my nearest colleagues and 8 hours off from my furthest colleagues. So 5 and 8 hours is quite a difference. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I'm looking to do some research into Common Core methods of teaching in the United States, and try to get all of the interconnected bits thrown together so that I can do some stuff on Twitch and or YouTube that says here's why we teach it like this, or here's why your teachers have been suggested to teach it this way, or recommend it. Here's the recommendation for the new way of teaching things, and it's not just new maths all over again. Which in some ways, Common Core is slightly like new math from the 70s, but in other ways, it's absolutely not. The reason that new math did not stick last time was that, for the most part, one, the communication just wasn't there. Two, people were like, no, I am going to learn this method. I'm going to teach my child to do this method, which we are seeing today as well, because I learned it. So people are teaching the kids the standard algorithm of how to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, without really thinking about whether or not it's valuable. Most of the Common Core stuff that we're seeing nowadays is intentional, rather than just here's something new so we can sell a book. That's not the purpose. The purpose of Common Core is to improve teaching and learning by looking at whether or not the methods that we're actually going to do with the kids are actually valuable. So it's going to look at whether or not this can be expanded, whether or not it can be tied into a future concept. So, for instance, I've done this many, many times. the multiplication and addition strings that we make now, or adding large strings of digits and things like that. It used to be that we would just say, okay, stack them up like this, and then add the ones, carry, add the tens, carry, add the hundreds, etc. And like, it works. It's fine if you're working a register. It's fine if you need to like real quick figure this out in terms of how do I add like all these things. But it doesn't really help in terms of figuring stuff out later. So, I guess I might as well. We'll leave it on just chatting, it's fine. Just chatting, some math. And if anybody does have any actual math questions, I am perfectly happy to interrupt everything that I'm doing and actually do some real math. So, feel free, if you have any questions, ask me. And I've got a pen and paper right in front of me, I will do it. Yeah, you know what, let's change it. Edit stream info. Do. Let's go, math. Cool. So yeah, the stuff that we're trying to push in this Common Core stuff is trying to get students to understand the concept rather than necessarily getting an answer. Because getting an answer is great for right now, but it doesn't work so much in the long term. They're not going to learn what you want them to learn. So, in terms of adding strings of digits and things like that, what works better, which granted looks messier and looks awful and all that, but again, ties into future concepts, is that what we do is we take all the ones and we decompose them and we say, okay, might as well actually put down 5637 plus 1648. Sure, why not? All right, so simple stuff. We've done this for, years and years and years. So what they're teaching kids to do now is to decompose these numbers into 5,000 plus 600 plus 30 plus 7 plus 1,000 plus 600 plus 40 plus 8. Right, so like, it's a long string of digits, and it might get people confused. But the thing is that when we're doing this, they've also learned a couple of important concepts at this point. And I know that because I was in my son's second grade classroom a few months ago where they were talking about commutativity of numbers. So the commutativity of numbers is saying like, hey, if you want to just rearrange all these things which are just being added, then you can go ahead and do that. So take the 5,000 and the 1,000 and put them together. The 600 and the 600 and put them together. The 30 and the 40, put them together. And the 7 and the 8 and put them together. Right, so all we're doing is rearranging. But again, it's by what rule? Well, this is the commutativity of addition. We're allowed to commute these objects as much as we want. And then what? Well, like terms are now next to each other. We are adding 5,000s and 1,000. So how many thousands do we have? So we're saying this in terms of, like, for a second grader, we're saying, okay, you're taking two things that have the same unit, that have the same label, and then you're just combining them and saying, like, how many of these things do you have? Well, there are 5,000s and 1,000. So 5,000 and 1,000 is going to make 6,000s. And in terms of like higher grades, you'd be saying, okay, this is going to be 5 plus 1 thousands. Right? So how many thousands are we adding together? Well, it's 5 here and 1 there, and they are thousands. So you put them together. And then you just go through the whole thing and do the same thing. So here we've got 6 and 6 hundreds. We know that that's just going to be 12 hundreds. 30 and 40 are 3 tens and 4 tens. So that's 7 tens, makes 70. And then we're adding 7 and 8. Oh no, that's hard. Goodness, how do we ever add these things up, right? If you just know it's 15, great. But there's another strategy that we can use here, especially for the kids who don't know how to do this yet, is that we can rearrange this. And we know that 7 is just a pile of stuff. 8 is a pile of stuff. And then we can put them into convenient piles to make this work better. So like, I'm going to take the 7 here, and I'm going to split 2 of them off, because 2 plus 8, the next number, makes 10, makes it easier. So sure, this is going to be 7 is just 5 plus 2 plus the 8 that we had. Right there in the end. And then what we do is we say, hey, we're going to use the associativity property, which says that this 5 and 2 could make 7. But you know what? That's not very convenient for what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is combine the 8 with something. So 8 and 2 make a nice even 10. So we group the 8 and the 2 together to make 10, and then we've got 5 left over. So here this is going to be 10 plus 5, just for that last bit. Or 5 plus 10. It's commutative, so we can flip it around either way. All right, so then what do? Well, you look at this and you say, well, what same things do we have here? We've got 6 thousands, 12 hundreds, 70, 10, and 5. Well, looks like we got to do it again. So find out any of the like terms. We got 1,000 and 200s. So again, split it off, decompose, or just combine it if you know how to do it. Doesn't really matter which way to go. So 6,000 plus 1,000 plus 200 plus 70 and 10 is going to be 80 plus 5. And again, we're just splitting stuff out, deciding what's easiest to add together. So 6,000, 1,000 is going to be 7,000. Plus 200, plus 80, plus 5. Okay, and then that's 7,285. Cool. Now, a lot of people are like, hey, well, I could just do this in stack addition in like a line. I don't need to do this in terms of 56, 37, 16, 48. I can then go through and just be like, all right, just add it straight down. 7 plus 8 is 15. 3 plus 4 is 7 plus 1 is 8. 6 plus 6 is 12. Carry. 5 plus 1 is 7. So 72.85. There you go. And a lot of times, this is what they do in a lot of their like YouTube and TikTok videos. And they're like, why are we doing this? Because this is just better. Look at how short it is. Look at how little time it took me. And again, you're missing the point. Yeah. You got to learn piano axioms. All right, that's not the point. The point is that later on, I'm going to say, okay, Add those. Right? I just gave you the exact same problem, but now it's algebra. The people who jumped over here, as soon as they see this, a lot of them are going to have a panic attack because they don't know what to do. The students who learn this, the much longer and so arduous process of regrouping all of the same stuff, and oh my goodness, it took forever to get the answer, they're going to look at this and be like, oh, that's just the same as this. It's just that instead of thousands and hundreds and tens and ones, we now have ones and x's and x squareds and x cubeds. Because if x is equal to 10, this is literally the same problem. The exact same problem. If x is equal to 10, this is the same problem. It takes literally no time. The only difference is that in this case, you can't combine your x's, x squareds, x cubes, and your ones with each other. So in this particular case, the 1200 ends up staying separate. But, right, it's kind of all the same stuff. This line where we had it, where it was 6,000 plus 1,200 plus 70 plus 15, 10 plus 5, that is going to be our answer to the end. This is going to be 6x cubed plus 12x squared plus 7x plus 15. And that's it. Right? All you have to remember is, oh, right, I need to combine like terms. So in this particular case, the like terms are those which have the same variables with the same exponents. So 5x cubed plus 1x cubed at the beginning, plus 6x squared plus 6x squared from second position, 3x plus 4x. Did I say 7x earlier? I really hope I did. I might have said 70. But anyway, plus 7 plus 8. Right? Oh, would you look at that? It's, again, literally the same thing, just with here our x's being worth 10, and here our x's can be literally anything we want. So generic numbers. Hey, Sensation. How do you get back to the original? Yeah. Also true. Yeah. Okay, so again, we have here x cubeds. How many of them do we have? Well, it's 5 plus 1. So 6 of them, x cubeds. Plus 6 plus 6 is 12, x squared. Plus 3 plus 4 is 7x. Plus 7 plus 8 is 15. And again, by the time you get to middle high school, you probably should know those simple additions. And then, oh, would you look at that? It's the same thing. So it's not quite the same as the original there, but at the same time, it's just really close. There's no carryover from our 12x squared into our x cubeds, at least not generally, right? Okay, so something costs x. So it equals x after being decreased by a third. So arg, right? The original cost, we will call C. All right, if it has been decreased by a third, that means that we have lost 1/3 of C from the original cost, C. Okay, and then, yeah. So there, right? X is going to be our new price, the sale price, after C, the original cost, gets decreased by 1/3 of that original cost. So looking at that, we say, okay, we've got one cost minus 1/3 of that same cost is going to be how much? Cold gold. I mean, maybe. But, like, you're not always trying to do that, right? And by the time you understand the nuance, or should understand the nuance of, like, x being any possible value, then you know that, oh, these things are different labels. So one of the ways that I get around that is I say, okay, well, look at what we've created. So our 600 plus 600 is 12 hundreds. But we have a conversion factor. We understand that 12 hundreds is the same as 1,000 and 200s. So the conversion allows us to remove the tens place off the hundreds and make it its own distinct thousands. If you look at it in terms of the x's, you say, well, how many x squareds make an x cubed? And the answer there is x of them. So we don't have any extra x's to, like, throw around inside that 12x squared, so it just stays where it is. It's stuck. Yeah. And understanding the nuance is really the issue, right? If you have communicated that nuance to your students, then they're going to be okay. All right, so we could do the same thing we did on some of this other stuff, where we said, okay, if we take our c minus a third of c, again, we can be pedantic about this and say, well, that's how many c's, right? We started with 1 and we subtracted a third from them. So it makes the algebra portion of this kind of relegated off to the side. And we say, okay, we'll deal with the c later. So we just need to do 1 minus a third in order to get us what the sale price is compared to the original. So 1 minus a third, all right, that's easy enough. 1 is 3/3 minus 1 of them. So 3 minus 1 gets you 2. Units are thirds. So x is going to be equal to 2/3 of c. Where, again, you need to, remember the label inside your head that c is going to be our original cost, and x is going to be the sale cost. So we'll pop that over on the side. I usually like to include labels just in case somebody's getting confused about stuff or anything really. All right, so then how do you get back to the original? Well, we need to solve for c. So how do we get c back? How do we solve for c? Well, we've got a 2/3 that's being multiplied to it. 2/3 that's multiplied to it. So either you can divide by 2/3 to get rid of that 2/3 that's there, or you can multiply by the reciprocal equivalent, which is going to be 3/2. So just to write it, take the original thing that we had, x is equal to 2/3 of c. We're going to multiply by 3/2 on both sides, or again, divide by 2/3, your choice. And then here, that's going to get us 3/2 of x is equal to, and then here 3/2 times 2/3 is just going to be 6/6, or 1. So 1c is going to be equal to 3/2 x. So you get a sale price that is $10. I'm using pounds so much now. You got $10. Cool. Multiply by 3/2. That's going to be 10 times 3 is going to get you 30. Divided by 2 is going to get you 15. So The original C is going to be 3 halves times 10 gets you 15. $15, 15 pounds. Whatever you're going for. It's all good. What time are we looking at? All right, 11:45. Oh, yeah, it's right there on the top of my phone. I thought it wasn't there, so that's... goodness. So N-Simplex Pachinko is a theoretical game that I was thinking of in a bit of research that I was doing. So, this is going to take a bit. Oops. C is equal to 3 halves times 10 equals 3 over 2 equals 15. Woo. All right. And I don't know that I actually did it in this notebook at all. But if I've already got a picture, I'll definitely use this one. Looks like no. I did a bunch of pre-calculus honors seminar stuff back when I first started teaching at the community college, or full-time at the community college. They were like, hey, we would really like it if you could teach them, like teach the honors group something like new and different that they haven't seen before or like might have gotten elsewhere. And so I was like, conic sections, I guess. And they were like, absolutely, do conic sections. So I started looking into conic sections. And then I was like, this is boring as hell, and they don't like it either. And so I went over with math history. I was like, let's try this. And so I looked up much more math history, and they were like, oh, that's way better, actually. The students loved it. The administration was like, I guess. But you know what? I liked it a lot better. So at one point, one of my deans said, you know what? It would be way better if we could bring some research opportunities to community college students, because a lot of them have been, like a lot of four-year students go to a big university or college. Around there it was, like College Park, Maryland was a big one. Some people go to UPenn or various other schools up and down the mid-Atlantic. And then a few people just went wherever. So it was algebraic geometry. And so, yay. But I did try, at least at the very beginning, to be like, okay, where do we get the idea for like a parabola? And so one of the places that we can get a parabola from, you know what? Okay, we'll just take this. One of the places we do get a parabola from is the concept of that's a pretty good amount of money there. All right, cool. Water bill that I don't know if we have to pay or the landlord has to pay. That was before we moved in. I think it was after the other guy moved out. So okay. So let's do this. So in order to do a parabola, what you do is you start with a line. Ugh, awesome line. I'm not going with the grain of the wood, that's the problem. And a point. All right, so with this, yeah, this is just British. The way to do this, it's actually a lot better if you can get like a really super dark line or like do it with a Sharpie, especially a thin Sharpie. I think I've done this on stream before, but it's been a while. So we'll just do it again because it's fun. Follow along at home, right? So yes, the focus directrix. So it turns out that right, if you take this and you fold the paper such that the line, I can't really see it, but the line goes through, the directrix goes through the focus. What actually happens, and those of you who know calculus, this creates a tangent line to the parabola at whatever point it is that makes that work. You can get the more obvious vertex by folding the directrix directly up onto the focus. Because that's going to go through, it's going to be, again, I'm going to need more light, I think. So you get the directrix onto the foot. That might actually be worse. Woo! Ooh, ooh, ooh. I think I might see it. There we go. Okay. And if you really crease it, like origami creasing, then you can see this a lot better once it's actually done. But you just keep doing it like over and over and over again until, and it is also a lot easier with like tissue paper. If you have some tissue paper, I highly recommend using that instead. And then you get a whole bunch of different lines as best you can. Represent each like possible different slope that goes through these, because that's what we're doing. And depending on how far away from the directrix your focus is, you'll get a different sized parabola based on that particular motion. So, right, we can go out here. Oop, too far. Algebraic geometry, that was the word I was actually searching for earlier. Yeah, one of my colleagues was really big into algebraic geometry as part of his doctorate thesis, I think. So I did not understand pretty much anything that he did. I looked that up at one point and was like, yep, all right, cool. It's very interesting. Don't understand. So anyway, there, you can see some nice folds here. Goes down like this, gets there, and then comes up, again, tangent to all these individual folds that we made. And then the same on the other side too. Then it would keep going if we were able to do it. So it makes a nice little parabola. You make that focus, make that directrix, and then you can figure out the relationship to any of these particular points, or the points that are on the entire graph. So if you pick just a point like this and say, okay, this is x comma y, how do we get that particular point? Well, this particular point is going to be found on the line, and again on the tangent line to this parabola, where the distance to that particular point from the focus and the directrix are equal to each other. It's not entirely obvious why, but you take this particular point there, and I believe it's that one, that point, if you fold it over onto the focus. Where's the focus? Nope. Lower. Higher. Nope, lower. Oh, there it is. Alright, I think that should be it. Does it go through that point? No, but it's really close, so I'm just going to attribute it to me messing up. But essentially, you're taking this line and folding it over onto that line. So we're getting this particular tangent line becomes the line of symmetry between those two lines. Usual definition as the locus of point S equidistant from focus and directors. Yeah. I don't know. This is just the way I learned how to do it, so. But yeah, this just becomes really cool to like see this whole process, and then that's gonna bug me. There's one light that is blinking. All right, so we get this, and then what we can do is say, okay, well, if instead we had two foci and a length of string that was exactly like rigid, so you could get, if we tie the string down into either of these places, and then the sum total of that distance, so this is going to be like f1, f2 as variables, going to a particular point xy. If we could take this and drag my pen around the paper while keeping the string, which connects f1 through f1 and f2. That's probably terrible notation. Whatever, it's fine. But basically you grab onto this and you say, okay, I'm going to push this out to the furthest extent that I can, all the way out as far as I can in all directions. Then it ends up forming an elliptical shape, excuse the freehanding. And so f1 plus f2 is just going to be equal to some constant L. And then we just let that be true for all particular values x comma y. It ends up making an ellipse. So I could actually demonstrate this using a piece of string that was tied into places through, like, you know, a washer or something like that, stuck down so that it can't move. And then I could actually draw it out. Sometimes it gets a little caught on things, like this starts wrapping around this way rather than slipping over the top. You just got to manipulate it a little bit. It works fine. It's fine. Yes, we totally were, and I completely ignored it. Then the hard one to do is hyperbola. So you get your two foci, and you say, okay, the distance between, what is it? The difference between F2 and F1, right? So F2 minus F1 is going to be constant. So I think one of them, this is on one side, it's going to be positive, on the other it's going to be negative, but it's the same deal. So you end up with hyperbola, which ends up going like this. And this becomes really hard to make. I did it once. So basically the idea is that you grab a hold of the tails that are coming out from these things, and you say, okay, they're going to be anchored. They're going to be anchored kind of at your fingers. And then the excess that's coming off of them needs to be the same. So like I tied these up together somewhere down here, and then as I kept pulling, it was just like I'm gonna slip my fingers up it and making sure that they always pull the same amount of string from either side. It was really weird and it was tricky, but it worked. Something like that. Or I like had it at the middle where the difference between them is 0. That's wrong. I don't remember. It was something. It was interesting though. All right, anyway. So yeah, N-simplex pachinko came from, we were doing some research, and one of my colleagues was doing stuff with his not differential, discrete structures class. So it's the math proof class basically. And he was looking into the Pascal triangle, which technically should really be named Liouville triangle if you're talking about just like the structure itself, or possibly should be named it's not Al-Jayani, it's the other one. I keep doing this and I should know better. Depends on which structure you're using and for what purpose, how it should be named. So it should not be a function of your local geography. So Liouville was the first one to create the like mathematical properties of this thing. This is number theory. Really should be named after Liouville. If you're talking like binomial expansion, as a part of algebra, then I'm gonna look it up. It belongs to a different person. And if you're talking about binomial distribution and talking about probabilities and statistics, then that belongs to Pascal. It doesn't really all belong to Pascal. Shoulders of giants and all that. So all right, that does it. course, the computer's asleep, so that's cool. um, nope, not the distributed property. Al-Kharaj. There we go. Woo. All right. So Al-Kharaj was really the person who invented the binomial expansion when you're talking about algebra, or at least did more of a treatise on it. There was like a small amount of work done in the era of Al-Khwarizmi, but Al-Kharaj was really the first one to like say, hey, look, this thing that we found from the Chinese number theoretic side actually has some sort of meaning within algebra. And that's pretty cool because they didn't know that that actually existed. So Al-Kharaj made the first inroads into figuring out, oh, binomial expansion works the same way as this thing that the Chinese did a long time ago. And then Pascal also figured out that in terms of binomial distribution of statistical analyses and also probabilities, he was able to figure out, oh, I can use this thing to start talking about probabilities. So anyway, one of my colleagues said, well, what happens if we expand this to 3 dimensions? And I was like, well, that's really cool. So that's 1 and a 1 and a 1 and a 1 in 3 dimensions, and a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 comes out like that. This is now making a triangle every time that we go down. It's a tetrahedron. So it is a 3 simplex. The 2 simplex is just a triangle. The 3 simplex is a tetrahedron. So we're going to have like edges that come out like this. We're going to have edges that come out this way in the back. And we're going to have an edge that comes out, let's do this one instead of that one. They're going to come out this way in front right. And then this is going to essentially be something that looks like that. Again, comes down like a regular standard tetrahedron. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, and the 1, 2, 1 exists on every face. So now when we go one layer down, this all represents, right? The whole purpose of why it exists in the first place is, wait, this means that I could say, I want to do a plus b plus c raised to the nth power, where like everything that I go down this way is a selection of a. Every time that I go down this way, it's a selection of b. And every time I go down in back there, that's a selection of c. So now I have vectors that are going in one of 3 possible directions. Wait a second, I have a tetrahedron right here. Right, now I kind of wish this was solved at the moment, but nonetheless. So if I start at the apex, and then we're going to go down to the next layer, I can either go this way, or this way, or this way. So we've got 3 different directions that we can choose from. Yes, multinomial. So I can choose one of 3 directions to move in, and then we can make vectors out of this stuff. So it makes it a little bit easier to work with. Let's do more contrasty colors. So we can decide which way we want to go with this. You know, which of the 3 directions do we pick? Once we're at a particular node, now which direction do we go? Do we go in the front direction, which is, sure, A, the side direction this way, which is B, or the side direction this way, which is C? So I can choose A, I can choose B, I can choose C. If I choose, let's see, this was B this way, so if I choose A, this is now AB. And then if I want ABA, ABB, or ABC, C is going to go inside there down to this node here in the middle. Well, now this makes an interesting problem, is that, well, on this next layer, right, there are exactly one way to get to this location at the top. There is then one way to get to each of the other 3 locations that are down the triangle. Either we went forward, or we went side, or we went side. A, B, C. If we're at the apex, we've gone nowhere. So there were no selections. We're at the apex. If we go A, B, or C, we've gone to one of these 3 nodes. If we've then gone to A, B, we're here, but we could also have done that by doing B, A. So again, 2 different ways to get to that particular location. And then when we start talking about, like, okay, A, B, B, to get to this location, I could have gone A, B, B. I could have gone B, B, A, or B, A, B. And those are the only three ways to get to that particular location. More interesting is going to be A, B, C. Because I could have gone A, then B, then C. I could have gone C, then A, then B. Could have gone C, then B, then A. And essentially this ends up coming up with 6 possibilities. So it's the same as when you're doing 3 choose, what? It's a choose formula. Right, you've got 3 different ways to go. You need to select 3 from those 3, but permutation, because we just need the order. The orders can be different. So how many permutations can we get to get to A, B, C, right? Putting A and B and C in 6 different arrangements: ABC, CBA, BCA, oh boy, ACB, whichever ones I forgot. Right, those all relate to those particular things. And then along each of the faces, again, it's just the same stuff. It's multinomial-wise, we still get the Pascal triangle on, Leohui triangle on each face. And it's only the middle stuff that's going to change. So there is no middle here. This is the first instance of a middle number showing up, is that 6. And then if we keep going further and further and further, we end up building, you could even have this be the apex of another tetrahedron, which then builds down from it, where the shell around it is just another Leohui triangle on each face. So this is one of the many things that his students and I have like poked at, but only just. Yep. So that was actually the formula that I came up with was, oh, if I want to get anywhere on this thing, then I need the what is it? I need the pi multiplier of all possible k sub n? No. K sub j, where j went from 1 to n on the bottom of, and then you just did it up there. What was it? 3, or number of choices factorial. So k sub j were the boxes of, I did this so many years ago at this point. It's been like 10 years. Anyway, I discovered this formula and I was like, oh my god, guys, look at this. And it's a multinomial formula. I was like, oh, huh. The problem was that I discovered it when I was off of Wi-Fi. So I was like out in the backcountry and I wasn't going to be able to figure out like anything, whether or not this was something that was already known for hours. And I was like, I'm so excited. This is awesome. And then I went home and I looked it up. I was like, oh, that's a multinomial formula. Yep, that's what that is. Cool. It's n factorial. No, because that's not the number of, n is the number of bins that we are in. So this is our exponent that we get. It's not n. K. K is each individual bin going across. How many have we selected in each one? Not how many choices have we made. No, wait. Yeah, no, that does work. Right, because n is the layer that we're going to. So that's how many choices were made in total. Yeah. Okay, I think that's right. But anyway, yeah. So I came up with the actual formula for multinomial, and I was super excited about it just because like this is a thing that we can do, and it's already well established and well known. So whatever. But at the same time, then I was like, okay, what can I do with this information? So the guy, A sub, yeah, that's fair. So the guy said, all right, what we can do is we said, let's take a slice off of the face of the simplex that we get. So using the 3 simplex, we slice off the first face. That's the Pascal triangle, right? It's just regular. Then the layer underneath it ends up being, if we slice, diagonally. So we slice a Pascal triangle off the front of it. Then what we end up with is this one that's in the background here. And then coming down from it diagonally, we get to 2 and 2. And then going again diagonally, we end up with a 3, 6, 3. And then going diagonally down again, we end up with the thing that's behind there. Right, it's 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. But then behind that ends up being a 12, 12. And off to the sides are 6, 7? That's not right. No. Oh, it's still a 1, 4, 6. Never mind. This is where it starts getting hard to visualize, and oftentimes I like spread it out more in order to give more of a sense of like separation of depth. There's also a third 12 back here. 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. Yeah, so this is where the drawings get complicated. So you've got a layer down here. All three faces have 1, 4, 6, 4, 1 from the original De Huy triangle. And then as you come down, the 6 pairs up with 2 of the 3s from each of the faces to get a 12 and a 12 and a 12 that are immediately under that 6, or supporting the 6, if you will. So going across, this is now 4, 12, 12, 4. So slicing the face off of it, you end up with a 1, 2, 2, 3, 6, 3, 4, 12, 12, 4, 5. Is this following anything that I was planning on doing here? No. Okay. So, you'll see it. Yeah. So it's a 1, 2, 2, 3, 6, 3, 4, 12, 12, 4, 5, 20, 30, 25. And then it goes from there. All of these numbers end up just adding 1 every time. But more importantly, if you just look at the line going across and compare it with the original triangle, this is 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1. We got 1, 2, 2, 3, 6, 3. Well, this is now a linear pattern multiple of the original. It's times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5, times 6 from the original. And it's also offset by 1 from its exponent. And then he's like, wait a second. So if this is a linear multiplier of what we had over here, and specifically of n, the number that we just had over here, this looks really suspiciously similar to something else. And a lot of his other students were picking up what he was putting down, and they're like, wait, does that mean that this is essentially going to be now binomial distribution of this? And it is n minus 1 because it's now been set back, right? It's now down 1 layer compared to the other one. And the n came down front multiplied by all this stuff here. So yeah, he was like, well, the students came up with most of these ideas. He saw that this was potentially the case, that like if we're multiplying by all this and we just get a linear progression, does that mean this is calculus? And the students were like, and took like a week to figure, all the little nuances out and try to figure out all sorts of cool stuff. Like, that's really cool. I don't know what time we got. Almost 12:30. All right. Okay. So while they were doing that, I was looking at a couple of other things and saying like, okay, how does the actual progression go? So if we start looking at not just like the numbers themselves, but also I started looking at just taking the triangle and slicing across instead of diagonally or vertically or anything like that. Oh, they also figured out the pattern that was already well known, which was that, of course, this is how that works, because when you start with the original triangle and you look at the first row here, this is a constant. When you move to the next one, these are now all integers. That is a linear progression. When you move one more, this is now all of the triangular numbers, which is a quadratic progression. When you move one more, these are all the square numbers, which is a cubic progression. So they started working out, like if you just take more and more and more derivatives, you're going to end up getting all of the progressively, different pieces of all this stuff. So they were working exclusively in 2 dimensions, and then upping it to 3 in order to talk about the 2-dimensional patterns that existed on like a new 2-dimensional slice of that 3-dimensional object. I, on the other hand, was saying, okay, look at each individual 2-dimensional slice going across, and like, what do we get in progressively higher dimensions? So I looked at this and said, okay, we get 1, we get 1, 1, 1, we get 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, right, in there. Here we get the 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, and the 6 in the middle. So like, what patterns do those have? So yeah, it's multinomial. We got that already. And then one of the things came up of what's the sum of all of the rows? And so we were looking at this and going across. We say, okay, when you're just looking at a regular Lewy triangle, we say, okay, we got 1 coming from the top. Next step, we got 2. Next step, we got 4. Next step, we got 8. Next step, we got 16. Okay, cool. These are all, it seems, going to be our powers of 2. Which, of course, again, when you start looking at this, it's the number of different coin flips that you can have. So, yeah, there are going to be 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64 possible coin flips, and these are the distributions. Yeah, okay, cool. Got that. What I then did was I said, what would happen if we went one further with this and now looked at, and this is kind of getting a little esoteric and possibly non-applied in any way, shape, or form, but hey, why not? What would happen if we did, to get each step, you look at the 2 previous steps. So this is a literally Fibonacci sequence that we're looking at. So the top one's going to be 1. The next one's going to be still 1 and 1, because there's only one number above it. All right, the next row down, we are going to add up the 2 rows above it. Well, those 2 together are 2, and same on that side. In the middle, though, now we get this kind of diamond that we're going to add up, or rather it's a triangle. We're adding up everything in the triangle in order to get the thing at the apex of the triangle. So this is going to end up with 3. So 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2. On the next row, we add up the 2 previous rows. We get 3 on the edges. We add up the 2 previous rows. We get 5, 6, 7. So 3, 7, 7, 3. And then on the next one, we get 5s on the outsides. Of course, it's the Fibonacci sequence. Just like in the original, it's all just 1s, right? It's constant. Here, if we're doing Fibonacci, we're adding 2 rows above. So the edges are just going to be the Fibonacci sequence. All right, add this triangle up. So the 2 that are above it to the right, and 2 that are above it to the left, and everything within. So 10, 15. On those stepped in ones, they're symmetric, so we can just add it to both sides. And then here, this is where we get our first final actual full triangle here. So 2, 3, 2 is going to be 5, 7, and 2 more 7s, right? Gets us 21. 8's on the edge. Next in is 22, and 8 is 30. And 2 numbers here are 21 and 15 is going to be 36, 46, and 7 is 53. All right, and one more just for good measure. Here we get our 13s on the edge. Uh, 45, 58. Okay, 83, 104, and 2124. And middle, 106, 136, 156, 157. Okay, so we get all this cool stuff here, and then we say, what are the sums of the rows as we're going across? Okay, well, this is 1, 2. This one's going to be 5, 7. This one's going to be 10 and 10 makes 20. This is going to be 20, 40, 61. Here, this is going to be 106, 166, 171, 82. And then here, 157 and regerts, no, not really. So 300, 50, 70, 90, 8, 398. Plus 7 is 405, 405, 505, 16. Oi. 520. 505 and 16. Yeah, 521 and 26. 47. 5. Shit. 547? This is just adding up the rows. So just counting up how much is here. So this gets a little weird, just because it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like, it literally doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? So if we do this as Fibonacci style, I'm just doing this as a two-dimensional thing. So yes, it is going to be the face of our like 3 simplex, but it's also just a 2 simplex as it is. That dryer is just going to keep going until I get it. Right, so anyway, the point here wasn't actually to figure out just that. I was looking at this progression. That's all well and good. It's kind of neat, whatever. But my interest was then, well, it looks like as we kept going further, these numbers are starting to approach something. I did this all in Excel, which is an awful way to do things, but at the same time, it likes adding stuff nice and easily. So whatever. So we added up all of the rows. It made it super easy. And then I looked at the sums of rows and said, okay, given all these sums, what are we going to get for the ratio in between those sums? So here we end up getting a ratio of 2. Here's 3.5. Oops. Here is 20 over 7. So, yeah, okay. It's like almost 3. Here is going to be 61 over 20, which, again, almost 3. 182 over 61, almost 3. 547 over 182, again, almost 3. And so I went through this and then figured out, like, what is the limit going to approach as we get through all of these things? And I found a particular value. It's just some kind of random looking decimal. It doesn't look very pretty. But then what I did was I said, okay, take that Fibonacci style, and this is going to be like we're summing up the number of rows that we're summing up is like, S sub, I don't even know, whatever, S sub n. We're trying to find the sum of the number of rows that we want in order to get each thing, where in this particular case, n was equal to 2. I said, let's take the limit as n starts getting bigger. So like this has a limit as your like your little n starts getting big. So as whichever row you're on starts getting big, it'll approach a particular value. Now, if the big N starts getting big, eventually you're summing up all numbers above a particular number in order to get that particular number. So in that case, we're looking at, right, 1, 1, 1. Again, no surprise there. Sum up all numbers above this thing, we get 2. Oops. Sum up all numbers above it, we get 3, and we get 2. Same thing as this other one, but now what we're doing is we're going to keep this going. To get the edge case over here, we're going to sum 2 and 1 and 1. That makes 4. To get this middle one here, which is symmetric to that other middle one, we're going to sum up all these numbers here. That's 5, 6, 7, 8. To get the next one, that's going to be 4, 2, 1, 1 is 8. And then here, this is going to be 8, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1. So 6, 12 is 18, 20. And here in the middle, we get 16, 18, 20, 25, 26. That one's also an 8, but it's hidden. Then down another row, that's 8, 4, 2, 1, 1 is 16. Everything in this block here is going to be 28, and 12 is 45, 46, 47, 48. And 48. Everything in this block here is going to be 46, 50, 66, 68, 70, 76. And 76. All right, so then when we add all of these up, what are we going to get for that? So the numbers on the edge are not all ones because you're counting all numbers above them to get that particular thing. So at this point, right, when I'm talking like this thing, which is an infinite sum triangle, I'm just counting what are all the numbers above it. I'm just looking for, give me all of them. What is the sum of all numbers above it? Here it was, what are the sums of the numbers that are within 2 steps of this particular location? And then we'll sum all of them up to get the new number. Down here, I'm saying, give me the sum of everything above this particular space, 48, the sum of 20 and 8 and 8 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1 and 1 and 1 to get to there. Like I said, at this point, it might be completely divorced from any sort of meaning at all whatsoever. I don't actually know. Let's just sum all of them up. Yeah. So I actually did find on the OEIS, the Online Encyclopedia of Integer Sequences, there are some of these. So if you actually go through, they list them as like 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 8, 8, 4, 8, 20, 26, 28, 16, 48, 76, 76, 48, 16. Like that is an integer sequence that is created by doing this thing. And so you can actually look it up on the OEIS and say like, I know somebody who knows that. I mean, the numbers on the edge are just sum up all numbers above it. But if you notice what numbers they are, right? It's 1 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 8 and 16. So I realized, hey, wait a minute. In order to get every single location, all we're doing is we're summing up all the powers of 2 that came before it. So that's the definition of 2 to the n, right? In order to find 2 to the n, you sum up all numbers above it. Sorry, all powers of 2 above it. Below it? Whatever. Something like that. So then when you count up all these values, again, we want, well, what's the sum of all of them? This is going to be, again, 1. This is going to, nope. Sorry, the sum of the row, right? This is 2. This is still going to be 2, 3, 2 is 7. Still 7. This is where it starts getting different, because now 3, 7, 7, 3, we actually skipped that 1 at the top when we were doing just add the previous 2 rather than add all values. So here, 8, 4, 4, 8, nope. 4, 8, 8, 4, there we go. I mean, realistically, it's the same thing, is 22. 26, 46, 66, 74, 82, 76 twice is 152, 152 and 96, it's going to be 248, 248 plus 32 is going to be 280. And then, again, start finding the ratio between. So we got sum, we got ratio. This is going to be 2, 3.5, 22 sevenths, which, hey, that's an approximation for pi. I remember that. 82 over 22 is 41 over 11. 280 over 82 is not divisible by 4. So that's going to be 140 over 41. And again, we start getting into like number of different values here. As we start taking the limit as this limit as little n goes off to infinity, we get all of the possible values all of the possible values for this particular triangle, and then we just continue it on. It's got all powers of 2 along the edges forever, and then all the stuff in the middle is like the maximum possible value you could get just by summing up the things that are here. By doing this, this ends up approaching a specific value, which again, I was like, I want that number. And when I started plugging it into my calculator, I was like, this is way too familiar. I know what this number is. Why do I know what this number is? And it turns out that it was just like some number off of a number that I've been doing in trig for a tremendously long time. And it was, I believe, I can't remember 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's it. 2 plus the square root of 3. Ahoy! Zach, how's it going? So I came up with this. I was like, that right there, that's my number. 2 plus the square root of 3. I know how to get it. I can show how to get it through this entire thing. It's a really awesome process to do it. And like, that's where I need to like stop for a little bit until I decide to go in here and say, I can write a program in like, Python or something in order to figure out how to do this in 3 dimensions and 4 and 5 and 6 and just keep going. Eventually, this is going to become some infinite value, and I don't know if it might actually, in higher dimensions, start diverging instead of converging to something specifically. So that's going to be something that I really want to get into and try to work on over the next few years, in addition to all the rest of the ambitions that I have. So, so we'll see how it goes. Yay! Yeah, good morning. Yeah. It is afternoon here. We have, what time is it? 12:46. I was just explaining to Cold Gold how I got my name, or how I invented my name. But in addition to like all of this cool stuff that I was doing in 2 dimensions and then saying I want to do something in higher dimensions, I was also saying I could build this triangle in 4 and potentially 5 dimensions and potentially 6 dimensions just by drawing it. And it becomes increasingly difficult, let's say, especially on a 2-dimensional space, in order to try to make anything in any higher dimensions. So the 4-dimensional one is actually not that bad. The first layer that we get to is still just 1. This is a representation of a plus b plus c plus d to the n. So again, how many choices are we making? N. And how many possible choices do we have? A plus c plus d plus a plus b plus c plus d is 4. So we need 4 dimensions, and n is going to be our row that we're on. So when n equals 0, we didn't make any choices, so we still only have one way to get there. Right? If we make one choice, n is 1, then we have 4 possibilities that we could do. Starting from a central point, we could select A only, or B only, or C only, or D only. It's yet another tetrahedron. Just like we were talking about before on the previous page, when you look at one particular face or one particular like dimension of this thing, it's the previous formulation of this. So this is now Liuhui triangle in 3 dimensions is going to be each of our steps for each of our different n values. When n is 1, we get a 3 simplex as 1 slice of our 4 simplex. When n is 2, oops. We get yet another 3 simplex as that particular slice of the overall 4 simplex. N is 3. We're going to get the 1, 3, 3, 1 on each of the edges. And then we're also going to get a 6. Wait, no, hang on. 8. It's an 8. It touches all 4, question mark? Should touch all 4 of the 2s, I think. I think it's 8. And then when n is 4, and this is where I kind of lose the thread, we get the 1, 4, 6, 4, 1 along each of its edges. And then on the inside, 1, 4, 6, 4. And then on the inside, we should have another tetrahedron of 1, 2, 3, 4. Connections. Howdy. Brandon, how's it going? So we're going to get all of, again, new simplices on the inside of the old ones as we start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, yeah, this is kind of where my limitations of like physical drawing are. What am I doing on at 5 a.m.? What are you doing on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? Just getting up. Woo! Yeah, so Brandon, I have moved. I was talking a little bit earlier as part of our just chatting portion of this morning's stream. I have moved to the UK. Our family has up stakes and moved out to Yorkshire in the UK. We're going to hang out here for about 3 years. My spouse has a job. I have a job here, I guess, at home. And I am currently ignoring the fact that I need to write out recipes and go shopping in order to hang out with you all. So I'm probably actually going to pop off here, get some lunch, and then actually do that particular aspect of my job. And actually, like, get food and stuff. Okay. Yes, I agree. So this is you could call it permanent, but yeah, we're planning on coming back to the US in 3 years. So, if anybody does want to check out the just chatting portion of this stream from earlier, as soon as it goes up on VOD, you can check out the house that we have there. So I did a little house tour right at the beginning. So we get a nice little area here. This is my house tour. Yep. And you get to see all the like UK-isms that we have around our house, which includes the hot water radiator right here in the corner. I did not quite understand this when we came in. It is off at the moment, so apparently, or it's not demanding. It's like the hot water radiator works just fine, just as a thing. This one got dinged right there. So hell, we'll do it again. That's fine. Yep. So we got this kitchen. Let's see if I can actually lock this thing off, because currently this is not convenient. Something like that. Okay, so we got this nice little kitchen area. The island was actually not something that we had at the beginning, so the guy who was here originally, sold it to us. It was like, look, I'm moving back to the States. I don't need all of this stuff to come with me. So do you want it? And we're like, yes. We got nice little kitchenette. Obviously, right here, the most important part of any English kitchen, the kettle, which I was saying it earlier. This thing runs on a 240 out of the wall, or 230 technically, and the total wattage is come on. Oh, come on. The total wattage going into this thing is 2200 at maximum. So you can boil water in approximately 30 seconds. This is the refrigerator and freezer, despite the fact that it looks like cabinets. We have here the dishwasher. And typical under the sink stuff. And then like just your standard drawers. These are very nice in that they have the soft close ones. Most of them do not. I was saying earlier, we had here our Yorkshire Gold. 2 different kinds of coffee. That one we got here. This one was from the US, and I have to cancel that subscription still. And that's Taylor's tea is like very popular in Yorkshire. So we got a nice little small area there viewing the TV at the moment because we literally have no furniture anywhere. We sold the one in the US, so we are currently in the process of selling it, which is fun because we're not there. This is all the furniture here is loaner stuff. So they give it to basically everybody who comes over. So it's been through, in fact, this was exactly the same furniture that our friends across the street had when they moved in. And they took one look at it and were like, oh yeah, this is broken here. Don't sit on it like this. Yeesh. Yeah, that's pretty serious. Out in the entryway here, we got the garage, which is empty, and got double closet over there. Nice little bathroom over here. And I never really liked the pedestal sinks all that much, but or the bowl sinks, but this works out pretty well. I like it. We got like a shelf and a window, which is literally at, this is about my eye height. So like, the window is above people's heads. And an extractor fan, which stays on after you leave. Nice little utility closet, which the kids love because you can like seriously hide and seek in here. I imagine we're going to actually have like stuff in there at some point. I need to take care of that. We go up fairly steep steps and around a corner. And we have the first floor. Our little bathroom in here, which has a nice tiny little shower, usual, and then a gigantic tub. Oh yes, and heated towel racks, which run off of the same water system as all the radiators downstairs. The, oh God, don't look at it, please, laundry lounge at the moment. This is where things go to dry because they don't actually dry downstairs in our dryer. Imagine that. Kiddo number 1's room. Kiddo number 2's room. Significantly smaller, but don't tell him. He's actually okay with it. And then stairs. Get to our 3rd floor. Where, again, we're living out of our bags. Things have exploded. We're going to eventually drop stuff in here with our loaner and, hang things up. Imagine that. And then again, nice tiny little shower here, which is approximately exactly my height coming in. So I do need to watch my head on this. And then the previous guy didn't like the ceiling being like right above his head. He's slightly taller than I am, so that was actually a concern. But yeah, that is our new UK digs, which I was saying earlier, our place in Maryland was basically a ranch where we're living entirely on one floor, and then like going into the basement was just like, ugh, I have to go downstairs. Ugh. Such an onerous task for me. We pretty much never did anything in the basement, almost exactly for that reason. But it was fine. It was a nice house. We liked it. We're done with it now. Somebody else can have it. And our neighbors were all concerned because they had people coming in to look at it. I think they did something like 40 viewings in one weekend, and I was like, yo. But, we weren't there, so we didn't care. And our neighbors were getting all concerned because they were like, well, we saw a bunch of people, but like none of them were like our age. The ones that were, we were like, do they have kids that are going to be around our kids' ages? Which, is not really any of their business at the moment. But it would be pretty nice if they did have some, younger families and stuff like that for their kids to be able to play with. But eventually, maybe. They'll see how things go. We were able to secure a location that had both a washer and a dryer, which I am very happy about. Oh, that's the other thing, is that this utility closet is in the literal middle of the house. So all right, you're gonna go upside down. Where does the water go? Because there really isn't any water hookup apart from in. And there is a wastewater for the washer, but where does that go? So I was reading the book because we had a lot of books, and I was like, okay, that's the soap drawer. What's that? Aha, it's the water drawer. So all of the water gets condensed in basically a little tiny... should have shown that too. All the water gets condensed in basically a miniature air conditioner down here, and then gets dragged up into here and dropped into the water tray. And then at the end of the wash, not only do you empty out the lint tray, but you empty out the water tray. So it's very different and very weird and still kind of fun, things. So yeah, we got notifications. We got a notification every time somebody scheduled a viewing of our house, and we're like, oh great, this is gonna be fun. And then literally 40 notifications later, I was like, okay, are we about done? Only two, I think, put in an offer. A lot of people were just like, well, it wasn't what we were looking for. And like, fine, that's your prerogative, of course. Anything that you want or need that is not there, you probably want to make a note of it. And, not every house is going to suit your needs, so whatever, it's fine. But yeah, being almost all entirely on one floor, I think it attracted a lot of older people. I certainly know that it was helpful when we had my father-in-law in town, because he had double knee and at least one shoulder replacement, possibly other stuff as well. I don't even remember. But yeah, he's like part cyborg at this point. Uh-oh. Yeah. Thank you, Zach. That was the perfect response, and I should have thought of it. I'm only slightly mad. Yeah. So, we ended up going with one of those offers that came in, and they were like, we'll do it without inspection. I'm like, okay, go for it. So the inspectors coming in from their from the lender to say, are we going to back this house, basically, for the amount of money that you want to borrow? Is it worth that much? And so they get an inspector to do that, and then they'll basically say, we will cover you for this house up to this amount, and if it's not the amount that you want to borrow, you're in trouble. You got to go back and start having discussions with people. I would like both the griller and the microwave to work. Yes. Okay, cool. That was not what I hit. Damn. Oh, whatever. Anyway, while I figure out the microwave, I'm going to send us over with a raid to somebody. Nope, that wasn't it. Nope, that wasn't it. That also was not it. There we go. I'm going to send us over to our buddy Psyche, who is currently playing, oh, come on, Stardew Valley. And anybody who maybe has small children around, some small some small content warning, I suppose. So we're going to start that, and I hope to see you all soon. We'll do some more mathy type stuff, and do some more just chatting type stuff at some point. So I'll see you all later. Have fun, and okay, it might not be going anymore. Yeah, there we go. Right up. So have fun. I'll see you around, and be hanging out with the Chads more. All right. See you guys. This is Obi-Wan Pez for N Simplex Pachinko. Have a good morning.